What's going on, guys? Rainer here, back with another episode of Personal Best Hockey's Return to Play charity campaign. December 1st, Christmas quickly approaches, and while it's an amazing time of year for many, it's a bit of a trying time for some. And so, keeping everyone in mind this holiday season as the episodes continue to roll. And so, today we've got a very special guest, Jamie Harrington, joining the show. Jamie's a longtime family friend and actually the first person to ever put me on skates. And so, I owe him many thanks for the journeys that came thereafter, and many thanks. Very grateful for him to have the courage to join me on the show to share a bit about his journey. And so, thank you so much to Jamie for joining. If you guys have been following along, thank you for your continued support. If you're just joining, welcome. My name is Kevin Raine, and I'm advocating for mental health awareness in my communities as well as yours. And so, continue to follow along, click the links as the video rolls, find my channel, check it out, share, like, comment, all that good stuff as we continue to tear down the stigma surrounding mental health. And so, as always, thank you so much and hope you enjoy this episode. What's going on, guys? Kevin Raine here with Personal Best Hockey's Return to Play charity campaign with yet another episode. Joining me today, Jamie Harrington, longtime family friend. He's seen me run around in diapers. He's watched me catch fish bigger than me at the time. And he is here today to discuss mental health as we try to break down some stigma, share a few stories, and give our opinions on certain few topics. And so, Jamie, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, pleasure to be here. Really grateful you asked me to share this with you. And like you say, we've been longtime family friends, and your mom's been cutting my hair, I think, since I was 17. And so, yeah, no, I've watched you grow up, and it's pretty cool. And no, any way I can help and anything I can share to help, right?
Well, I appreciate your help and appreciate your patience and all this. There was another time we tried to arrange this call. I was having tech issues, technologically challenged. And so, of course, we pushed it back. And that was actually quite some time ago. So we're back, we're revisiting and trying to really dig into this. And so you yourself are a counselor of sorts, correct?
I'm a social worker.
Okay.
I actually I struggled with addictions myself, alcoholism and addiction, and it was a battle for a long time. And I ended up getting sober. I'm coming up to 9 years. It's hard to believe.
Wow.
And within that time, I ended up being sober and working in an emergency home for Child and Family Services, and I enjoyed the work. I loved working with the kids and thought I'd be better suited if I got an education. So I went back to school and got my social work. So I'm, a supportive counselor, I guess you could call it.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like I say, I'm been kind of in the social service field for 8 years. I've worked with children with Child and Family Services, and I've worked with teenagers, and I've worked with adults in the field. So I've had a pretty wide variety of work in the field. So currently I'm the drug. Yeah, currently I'm the drug prevention coordinator in Wabigoon Lake.
Okay.
And it's education and supporting families to the best of my ability there, right? And trying to teach and share and support any way I can. So
right.
That's kind of my role out there. Yeah.
And so of course you've kind of played both sides of the experience spectrum, right? Like you spent however many years prior to this, now 9 years, where you've been able to face your own challenges and come to terms with whatever you were dealing with prior in your addiction days and what those looked like and such, to now being able to go on this path to help people similar to you. And so right. Any as much or as little about really the entire journey to gain some insight on really both sides of it.
Yeah, people say you have to reach your bottom, and everybody's journey is different. when it comes to addiction and getting clean. Everybody goes through it differently. Um, and you know, I think the hardest part for me now is to watch people that are struggling with alcoholism or addiction, and you want to have like a magic wand to wave over top of them and help them and fix them and make them better, right? And I'm sure lots of people tried to wave wands over me for years.
Yeah.
So and that's a really tough part of after you get sober and the fog lifts and whatnot. But you know what? A lot of times when you're addicted or an alcoholic or you struggle with that stuff, you're not even aware of it.
Right.
It's a progressive thing, right? It doesn't happen overnight. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to be an addict today. I want to be a you know, an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a progressive thing, and a lot of times we aren't aware of it, and we nobody wants to be that person. Um, for me, you know what, I never realized there was help out there, and
Mm-hmm.
I never realized how much help there is out there. So, and it's hard to put your ego aside and reach out for that help,
Right. Right.
because you're right, stigma, right? Stigma is the worst. You have so many fears around how people are going to take you and how people are going to look at you. And I'm sure people still look at me and say, you know, I live in a small town. Everybody knows probably what I was and where I was at, and where, you know, I'm still probably that person to a lot of people.
Right.
You know, the people that are close to me know where I've come to in my life, and it's not easy, and the struggle's real, and it's still something that I have to daily take care of, and I daily take care of it because my fear is so great of going back.
Right.
You know, I never want to go back. So um, you know, the nightmares are real, waking up thinking I've slipped and gone back to, you know, the days of cocaine or meth or whatever, right? And I don't ever want to go there. So it's not easy to say, hey, I need help. That's the toughest words to ever come out of my mouth were, I need help. Um, but when you can get those words out of your mouth to the right person, and start looking for help, there's so much help out there. There's so many things out there. There's so many programs. Um, you know, but it's getting to the point where you can say, I need help, I want help, and I need to get that. So that was the toughest part for me. Once I did that, I knew I wanted it, and I've never had a relapse. I've never wanted to go back there. You know, in the beginning I did it for my kids, um, and then I soon realized I just had to take care of me and get good for me, so I could be good for my kids. I could be good for my family. I could be good, you know, at work. And I'm sure when I left, you know, I worked in the mill for 23 years, and I'm sure they were clapping their hands when I walked out that door on my
Right.
last day. And you know, I've left a job here in Dryden since I've been sober, and I got a going away party. So that's the difference of sobriety and when I was using, right? They
Right.
were
Right.
glad to get rid of me when I was an addict, but now that I work with a little bit of a different integrity, and I try my hardest, and I'm, you know, passionate about what I do. So there's a little bit difference there, and that's one thing that I've noticed, right, in my life, that um, you know, the people that I do work with, they're happy to be working with me, and they see that I work with my heart on my sleeve, and I do it to the best of my ability, and I am really just trying to help people.
Right. Now,
So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of the history of what happened, how I got there, and what I'm doing now. I think, but
well, I think it's an amazing story. I applaud you for telling the story. I'm proud of you for the 9 years, and I'm proud of you for coming to terms and now being able to take all that you've learned through that experience to help others going through the same. Like I said, I totally applaud you, and believe you're very brave for sharing that story as you continue to do so. Um,
thanks.
of course, so many different different questions and things that arise when I listen to you say that, because thinking about of course, as you battled your addiction, what you were really battling was with yourself, and you cited like the idea of leaving the mill and the terms you left on there during your state of addiction, which proves that not only were you addicted to drugs that were tearing you down, but the person you were in that time, while not looking for help or thinking that you might not need help, you were proud and you were not going to tell anybody you needed help. Meanwhile, everyone around you was likely saying, like, man, like this guy's got to get help, right? We think we have everyone so fooled when we're trying to hide things. And,
Yeah.
by the time you did ask for help, um, I imagine a sigh of relief from those closest to you saying, finally, right? Because everyone else knows, everyone else can tell, everyone can see the
Everybody
struggle.
else knows for sure.
And
I've run into some of those people too, Kevin, where um, that I've had people now in my sobriety tell me that, hey, you know what? It was about 15 years ago, and I was praying for you,
right.
and you really needed it, and I'm so glad to see you on the other side.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of people like that, and
Mhm.
and a lot of people told me to take my sobriety and kind of pretend you're a professional hockey player in your sobriety. And I
I'll
was
try
like,
to
what are you
pretend
talking
that.
about? And they're like, well, yeah. And so, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, there's you're trying to be sober and you're on the bench and you're playing the game. You're in the life of sobriety, and there's the people right behind the bench. That's your family and your friends, and they all know what your struggles are and what you're trying to do and where you're trying to get. But
Mhm.
then there's a whole bunch of people in the audience or in the stands that you don't know who they are, but they're cheering for you too. So
Right,
just
right.
remember, not only are your family and your friends cheering for you, there's people you don't even know that are cheering and praying for you. And I was like, wow, that's powerful stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then to meet some of these people along my journey of being sober and go, hey, I worked with you and I knew you in the mill. You might not know who I am, but I remember you and I was praying for you. I was like, okay, right,
Mm.
right.
Yeah.
It makes sense, and and it's so true, right? There are people out there that are cheering you on. So yeah, and it's great to be on this side of it. I'm a lot different when it comes to my ego and humility. I, I don't stray from not reading my reflections daily and staying close with the people that helped me get to this point in my life too. I'm really close with some sponsors in AA.
Mhm.
AA worked for me. Does it work for everybody? No.
Right.
Everybody goes through it different, right? But AA worked for me, and so I stay close to that, and I try and be helpful to other people, and that keeps me sober, right? That helps me. So yeah, that's I do those things and try and work it to the best of my ability.
Right. Well, so proud of you
Yeah,
for coming to terms with that, and so proud of you for the direction yet again. I can't express it enough. And but so now we're in this position where I myself am have been known to struggle, and coming to terms with that, and through therapy and through certain techniques and regaining of routine. That's especially one for me that I've really started to dial in on over the last couple weeks, actually. And so now I feel it's my responsibility to bring this to light and continue to have these conversations, and that's why we're of course in this conversation right now. But I think the biggest thing, or one of the big things in this, and we've talked about it already a couple times, is stigma. And I've touched on it in a couple discussions, but it's something I really want to dig into. And the more insight I feel I can get on it, the more we can totally agree that there shouldn't be, right? And so where do you think we're at with the battle against stigma?
stigma. Wow, it's it's I don't know if stigma is ever going to go away.
Mhm.
Um, and that's it's sad, right? I was at a conference in Ottawa on a substance abuse conference last November, and that was their main their main phrase was about stigma. And we talk about stigma, but I mean, you still see it like, somebody, like, we have the Dryden Crime Report on Facebook,
Right.
and somebody gets something stolen, and the first thing people go to is, so it was a meth head.
Right.
Well,
Right.
do we know that? No, we don't. But that does create stigma. To me, that creates stigma, right? And we don't know who stole what or who did what. And could it be somebody that was using meth? It probably was maybe related to drugs, right?
Right. Right.
Drugs or alcohol, right? I did some pretty stupid things drinking and drugging in my days.
Right. Right.
And I think a lot of people have done a lot of stupid things when they're drinking and drugging.
Right.
Um, and they are usually related, but when it's hard for somebody to admit that they have a drug or alcohol problem.
Hmm.
And if we're more open to it in society, I think it needs to start, right in our hospitals, at our mental health and addictions places. We say we there's no stigma and we want to help, but I think people still in society are frowned upon. I mean, I still see people look at me differently, even though, I'm sober.
Right.
But I'm still, to a lot of people in a small town, just a drug addict, right? So
Mhm.
I'm sure I still wear that hat. Well,
Mhm.
that's still that's stigma, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's hard for people to get sober, and it's a really tough thing. And I think the more people can say, hey, how can I help you? I want to help you get through this. I'm going to stand with you while you go through this, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna take you to those appointments. I'm gonna be waiting outside for you. I'm gonna,
Mhm.
and the more we're empathetic to those people trying to get help. Um, and the other thing too, the biggest struggle with addictions and alcoholism is people have to want it too, right?
Mhm.
So that's what I say. It's a hard thing to watch people go through it until they're ready.
Mhm.
But when somebody is ready, supporting people, that's going to help with the stigma for sure, right? Having somebody, yeah, not to hold your hand, but somebody stand beside you and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to help you through this, and whatever I can do to help you, I'll be there for you, and showing up. And that's what we do in AA is if we get the call or somebody's looking for help, you help, right? When the hand is reaching out, you're there to grab that hand and help them out. And I try to live that to the best of my ability. My phone, I tell people my phone's on all hours of the night. I'll take a call at 2 or 3 in the morning. I mean, as long as my ringer's on and I haven't turned it off by mistake, but I take a call anytime, and I go anywhere to help anybody.
Right.
So yeah, stigma is a tough one because people do still look down their nose at people that are homeless or using drugs, or are street people. Like, we look down our noses at those people, and I mean, how did that person get there? That person still is somebody's brother or sister, or it's an aunt or an uncle or a niece or a nephew, or and how did that person get to be you know, addicted and homeless? And it's probably a terrible story. There's
Mhm.
probably trauma or crisis or something attached to it. And, how did they get there? And maybe not looking down our nose at them, but how can we help that person? Like, many a times I've been in Kenora and I've get your free coffee cards, and I've seen somebody trying to get warm in a store and went, hey, you know what? Here's a couple more coffees for you, and $5, and
Mhm.
grab yourself something to eat and sit down and stay warm for a little while. It's 25 below up there, right? And
Yeah.
I can see you're struggling. So yeah, it's the little things, right? And it's not easy for somebody. Somebody just didn't decide when they woke up one day going, I'm going to be homeless today and I want to be a drug addict, right? It's been a journey to that point. So how can we help those people? And we're I think we're trying to get there. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's all bad. I think we're trying to get there, but it seems to be a really slow train.
Of
Um,
course.
I think there's more we could do. And I see Kenora doing great things. They've opened up a homeless shelter again. Their mayor is very active in Kenora. I hear him on the radio all the time, and what they're trying to do there. And I hope we can do more here in Dryden. They have started a Dryden safety and well-being committee, and they are starting the process. So let's hope that we can help more here in Dryden too.
Mhm. You talked about just having empathy, and I've even more so realized very, very recently how important that is. And you talk about how everybody's journey is so different in getting to where they are, whether good or bad. And from the time we're kids, we've got all kinds of different support around us, for better or for worse, right? And so we got teachers, we got parents, we got our friend groups, we got their parents, we got our coaches, we got all these different people in the team kind of bringing us up. And then of course, um, you know it's so delicate, right? I think is kind of what I'm looking for, is things happen, whether it's for example, somebody who experienced bullying from a young age,
Mhm.
or I'm just speculating now, this day and age, the amount of video games kids are playing and what they're exposed to in like a totally different reality, right? They've got their friends that they never hang out with, they're just online with them, right? They're only ever on a headset with them. They're only ever excited to go home so that they can immediately throw the headset on. And so I was talking to somebody today about how Dried Minor Hockey's numbers are so down, and they're trying to figure out, well, why is that? I said, well, it's because they got the headsets on. They don't even care about the real world because they're so indulged in the Fortnite and the Call of Duty and whatever it is. And it's I think it's so severe that, well, if they're to take the headset off, well, then they got no friends anyway because they're all online. Right. And so, like, I don't have the stats with me. I don't know the numbers exactly, but you know, I think that the environment, both online and physical, of course, the online one being very, like, relatively new within recent years, they're pretty delicate. But if you got your kids playing online and using language that is unacceptable in reality, meanwhile you're playing with people all over the world with no accountability for anything they say, and they think it's a big ha ha ha. Well, this is the behavior kids are learning. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm not quite sure what steered me in the direction of that thought, but the upbringing of kids and the journey people take, and traumas that occur, and all these different things, you've got no idea what the person out trying to get warm went through, or has gone through, or the
No,
thoughts they've
no, that's
experienced,
right.
or
That's
or,
right.
or literally anything, right? Their level of education, whether they had maybe the assistance they needed, or because of maybe the time period of when they came up, they didn't have proper diagnostic tools in order to properly help that person, right? And I think, and especially, um, only recently I've realized how lucky I am, in that, you don't realize, um, how some things do need to be taught, and you don't realize how, so for example, say I step on the ice with a group of young kids, and me being a professional hockey player, I think things are easy. But then it's not until I see that child struggling to do what I think is easy that I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah.
like, we really got to, like, gauge this. I really have to tend to this child. I really have to, you know I got to go back to step -4, because I thought that was step one that we're trying to learn, but we gotta strip it back even more. But that's
Yeah.
me in being present and really trying to work for that kid, and bring them up, and assist them in any way. And some people might not have had the proper assistance. Some people might not have learned things that we take for granted in our learning. And then again, the whole trauma side, we can get into that, but that's some dark stuff I don't really want to verbalize right now. And
Um,
it's crazy.
yeah, and I was talking with my partner today, and we were talking about, when I worked in the emergency home and how tough it used to be to, I had like a baby, and I had like a 10-day-old baby, and I had the baby for like 8 months.
Mm.
And that baby became part of our family, and our, my daughter was part of this, and we're helping the baby, and it becomes part of your life. And then, they call one morning and the baby's got to be at the airport for 9 o'clock, and just get him out there, and away he goes, and he's gone.
Mm.
And I'm like, the questions go through your head: is this baby ready to go back, or is everybody okay at the other end?
Right, right. Where's this baby going?
Where's the baby going? But it's, what, that wasn't my role. And the same goes for the role. My partner is early childhood educator, so
Mm.
it's in your role doing the best you can to be um, somebody that child can go, hey, I remember Kevin Raine, and
Mm.
he taught me how to skate,
Mm.
and he taught me to, to be proud of doing what I'm doing, and do it to the best of my ability, and fight hard, and and that's what you're going to teach those kids, right? So it's being the best you can be. And um, people, older people in AA have even said to me to be the best AA member you can be. So, somebody can say, hey, that guy's a member of AA, and so AA must be okay, right?
Mm.
So, and that's the way I try to live my life to the best of my ability. Is it perfect? No. But I try to be that person that somebody can look up to, right? Or somebody can go, I have kids on my Facebook Messenger that I still chat with, that lived in my home while I did that emergency home for 3 years. And I'm still actively engaging with them to the best of my ability. Not every day, but we still talk.
Mm.
And they still remember those days that I remember you taking me fishing up the Lac Seul, and I remember how many fish I caught and how awesome that was. And, I miss those times, and I would like to do that again, right? That was just me being the best I could be in that moment, and showing that child something maybe they never experienced, right? And that's what you're doing right now. And how awesome is that, right? That you get to, my love, and I miss it a lot, but working with kids, right? And
Mm.
being somebody that maybe one day they go, hey, he was kind of hard on me, or he was kind of a tough guy, but hey, you know what? I learned a lot. I learned something from him, and
Mm.
he was a good guy, and he tried his best with me, right?
Mm.
That's all we can do, right? Be the best example we can be of whatever we're doing, whether it's hockey or AA or whatever. And letting people know that you're there if they ever want to talk, right? And
Right.
that you're willing to listen to what they have to say.
Yeah. And I mean,
Important.
we're anytime you are in a role of mentoring or have an opportunity to influence or teach or any of these things, you know, uh, not only do we have to work hard to get to where we're going, but we have to work hard to stay where we are, and then work hard so that the people around us can also get better and achieve greatness and pursue whatever they're looking to pursue. And it's something I take a lot of pride in everything I do. And of course, this is part of that, and at the school and on the ice. And every time I am around my peers or youth, I take responsibility for the influence I have on them, right? And I think that uh, I don't think it takes much. I think just being present, being engaging, and encouraging, and asking for a little bit more out of
Yeah.
a kid or a
Yeah.
student or whatever, right? Like, there's no doubt that in times when there's kids around, they can be stressful, they can wear us out and stuff. But if you let them do just whatever, well, then you haven't had made that influence. You haven't made that influence known. You haven't impacted that kid. And yeah, like I said, I don't think it takes much.
No, it doesn't. It
Doesn't
doesn't.
take much.
Like you say, just engaging with them, right, and talking with them, and being there, showing up every day too, right?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
being that constant in their life, that they know that, hey, whatever, however it is, I don't know what your schedule is, but every Tuesday, I got hockey with Kevin, and he showed up every Tuesday. He was there,
Right.
right? So that's important, right? That
Mhm.
you show up and just engage, right?
Mhm.
And that's super important. And I'm sure you'll do great things out in your new position for sure.
I'm
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 sure you
trying.
will.
It's an interesting time out in Eagle Lake those who are unaware listening to this, maybe I just took a position out in Eagle Lake as an ABA assistant, and so working one-on-one with a young lad who requires a little bit of extra help, and we've got some early chemistry, and he's a cool dude, and super excited to see how he grows as well as our own relationship, and really excited for him, and really excited to be out in Eagle Lake. Awesome opportunity out in Eagle Lake, and to be in the school, and very grateful for that. And of course, COVID and all this stuff going on, and whatever, sees that it's a little restricted and stuff like that, but able to get on the ice out in Eagle Lake as well. Been doing that a couple times a week for a bit of an after school thing that's going on out there. And like I said, just trying to help these kids get a little better, making myself available to whatever questions they have or tricks that I can show them, and stuff like that, and trying to emphasize like, hey, like, let's do some work, let's get going here, let's a little harder, a little faster, a little bit more every day, and the response has been pretty good. And so that's another exciting thing going on. Hopefully those kids will be flying in no time.
That's right. That's right. It's it's funny. I think we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but it's the little things, right? That you were talking about mental health and your mental health, and my mental health, but it's the little things we do, the subtle things. Everybody says when you're having a really bad day, halt, and that's HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Those are the little things. You take care of those little things. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you got some food in your belly? Are you angry about something, or is there something you need to take care of, or call somebody to say, hey, I'm sorry, or whatever, so you can get on with the next part of your day.
And so what was that? Hungry, angry,
lonely, tired.
Lonely, tired.
Halt. Yeah, they call it halt, right?
And those are
it's the simple things, right? Those are the simple things in your life that you need to take care of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing those simple little things in your life, the baby steps in your life is a little bit easier. Because I know, when I'm tired, I'm not gonna give my best. I'm not gonna have my best day.
Right.
You're dragging your butt. You're tired. You got a little shorter temper. The fuse is a little shorter. All those little things, right? You're getting enough sleep. You can handle that day. You can handle the pressure. You can get through those things, right? So, and it's the same as being hungry. I mean, can you imagine? You're hungry, and I know when I'm hungry, I get like the Snickers commercial, right? Like, I need to eat. So it's hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? So it's talking to people. That lonely part is making sure that you're reaching out to your friends, and you're getting enough social time with your friends, and talking about your problems, and talking to your parents or your counselor, whoever you need to talk to. That's the lonely part, right? Because we're social beings. We need to talk to people.
Right.
That's how we vent. That's I go to an AA meeting, and I talk about what's going on in my life, and how I'm gonna maybe work through something, and that I had and what I'm going through. So that's the lonely part, right? And then angry is just not being angry because you're hungry, lonely or tired, right? So yeah. Anyway.
And that's what I want to say I've heard that before, but maybe not in a time where I was trying to piece it together, or thought, oh yeah, whatever, right? Yeah. Maybe I heard that in a time when I was maybe more resistant to trying to get better, but how tightly those are together. But if you kind of strip them away from each other, you can kind of pick and choose. But I'm imagining, like, if I'm tired, well, that means I'm not sleeping, and I'm probably not sleeping because I'm angry about something. I got something on my chest, and then because of that, well, now I am pushing people away, right? Creating that loneliness part. And then, well, now I'm up late, I'm not sleeping, I'm tired, I'm angry, pushing people away. And then that probably rolls directly into the next day, where, well, maybe I'm skipping breakfast because, well, I made it to bed at 3:30 last night. I can't, get up and have a morning. And so then it just keeps rolling. You just fall into this cycle.
It very well can turn into a cycle. So that's what I say. You take care of those little things on a daily basis. And for me, I have to be diligent about the little things.
Right.
I got to make sure that I've got a schedule, and I try and stick to that schedule, because when I'm not, I'm not going to have a good day the next day, and I'm not going to be able to. I'm going to be frustrated at certain times of the day where I'm not going to be able to handle that day.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've become sober, and the fog's lifted and the clouds have gone away and the sun's shining now, I am so aware of that stuff.
Right.
Big time aware of it, right?
Yeah.
So, and those are things I actually learned that in school, right? That was one of the things we learned in school. That's just take care of the little things, take care of the small things, the simple things,
Mm-hmm.
the simple things, so they don't snowball into a big thing, right?
Right.
So, and you know what, they do all tie together, like you say, they can. But if you can kind of, at least be taking care of 2 out of the 4 or 3 out of the 4 to the best of your ability, it's going to make your days a little better, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm gonna steal that one from you, I think.
you run with that.
I'm gonna steal that. So as I was saying briefly before the chat, in a previous talk, I reached out to the audience for some questions to ask in the previous interview, but of course I asked it too close to the interview, and so all the questions rolled in afterwards. And so I'm gonna pull these up right now, see if we can go through them one by one. And so, question here says, are health authorities equipped to cope with increasing demands for services? And so I guess we can speak on our area and what they're equipped for and what that looks like. We haven't really discussed what is available to people, but no doubt that it's probably understaffed and like it says in the thing, overwhelmed.
And the numbers because of COVID are skyrocketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mental health, domestic abuse, alcoholism, drug addiction have all gone way up.
Right.
And we were barely maintaining what was going on before, and now everything's skyrocketed. So I'm sure there's shortages. I mean, I know there's waits, and
Mm-hmm.
like when somebody's actually ready to get help, like somebody comes to me and they want to go to treatment, there's a lot of hoops and fences to climb over, and hills to climb, and you don't just go, oh, okay, let me run you down there so you can get help.
Right.
So, and it's the same with mental health and addictions here. There's wait times. You might not talk to somebody, you might get an intake and then not see somebody for a month, maybe 2 months, who knows, right? So they're doing the best they can. I know they are. They're trying their hardest up there, guaranteed. But the wait times are going to be there, and that's tough when somebody's, I need help. You want help now, and now you're like you said, we were talking about the snowball, no sleep.
Right.
They're not eating because they never got to sleep, and they're upset about their problems, and it just snowballs and gets worse and worse, and their mental health gets worse, right? So I think people are doing the best they can, but there are definitely shortages and downfalls there for sure.
Yeah. Of course, there's so many different things to do. It's just that there's times when people get overwhelmed and feel that they're doing everything, and they want some of that professional advice. And I've been there. I've sought professional advice, and it was very helpful. And I think the biggest thing to say about it, at least in terms of my experience, is that the only difference between what, say, my therapist had to say and anything else I'd ever heard was that I was paying her to tell me, and I was listening because I felt like she was who I should be listening to, if that makes sense. All the messages in routine and self-love and these habits and everything we can do, physical, mental, spiritual, all these different things are all knowledge that we almost, or at least myself, I was resisting until I heard it from somebody I felt could tell me.
Somebody that had, right? somebody that had their master's told you, and you were paying that person, and you finally went, geez, my mom's been telling me this stuff for a long time, right?
Right. Right.
So, and it's the wellness reel, right? And that's why I say taking care of all those little things.
Hmm.
It's important, right? Like you were talking about spirituality, and
Yeah.
right, it's all those little things if you can take care of them. Baby steps, doing the baby steps, and then and the days get brighter for sure.
Mhm. Got a question here. It says, what is the best activity to do when your mental health starts getting bad, such as go for a run? Um, I guess is a pretty personal question to the individual. I know myself, within the last 2 weeks, I've got back into the gym. And because of that, both the blowing off steam element of that, as well as the routine that I've created around that, have been amazing. I've had an amazing 2 weeks. Still making sure that I'm doing things to ensure I can maintain. So there's no doubt that while I've checked those boxes, they're big boxes. Still, so many other things to maintain and continue doing. But so my answer is getting back in the gym.
Yeah. And you know what too is I think I mean ask somebody that's struggling with their mental health, what do you like to do? And that's a tough question for somebody that's struggling with their mental health, and you know they're in a tough place in their life, but what do I like to do? I don't even know. And it
Mm,
took me a long time to figure out, oh, I know what I like to do. And when I do those things, when I'm doing the things that I love to do, then I know my mental health is good for that day. I know that I'm going to feel better the next day. And a lot of it for me is not worrying about some of the things that happened in my past, but what can I do today to make tomorrow a better day?
right.
What am I going to focus on this very moment so I know tomorrow I'm going to wake up feeling better? You're talking about going to the gym.
Mhm,
Me, it's making a good home cooked meal for my kids,
mhm.
things like that.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel better that I'm nourishing them and they're getting rid of that hunger part, that I know they're going to be okay and they're going to wake up better tomorrow too.
Right.
But that
Right.
makes me feel, hey, tomorrow's going to be a better day. We're eating, got a
Yeah.
roof over our head, those little things, right? So
Exactly.
I try and focus on those kinds of things that make me happy, hunting, getting out for a walk, stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Um,
you're right. It's a personal thing.
yeah. And I think another thing adding to this is to try something new. I think that
Oh, for sure.
what we get so caught up in is doing what we always do and what we know we enjoy and stuff like that. But we kind of maybe say overdo it. So same example, to go to the gym. Oh, well, next thing you know, I'm going every day, not taking any off days. And it's like, well, there's no joy in it. I haven't changed my routine up in a bit. I haven't changed. Um, but when I was in Belfast, very shortly before returning home, when I was at the gym, I started getting into the pool. And I hate swimming, like it feels a lot more like just drowning to me. But I gave it a shot, and like expectations are low, and I, try to set a pace that's actually reasonable, which turns out to be slow motion, but that's fine.
Mhm.
But then I got out of the pool, and because of how the breathing is, right?
Yeah.
Like, of course, you're underwater, you're slow out and then quick in, and like, holy, I got my rhythm down. But so now I'm in almost like a meditative state. But
Hmm.
so then, next thing you know, I tried doing that a couple times a week, and I got way better at it, right? Because of course, when you start something, your learning curve is, like,
Yeah.
you're like, we're doing awesome at this, but it's because you just started doing it. Where say like, for the last however many years, I'm like, I'm not getting any better at hockey. This is like, I'm never gonna score goals. This sucks. Where with the swimming, it's like, wow, 2 laps, this many, and like, holy, I felt like I was meditating that whole time. And then like, let's see how far we can take this. But because you started, did something new, and didn't put too much pressure on yourself, you actually find you really enjoy stuff like that. But so um, I got to get back into the pool here and dry it, and I don't know what the restrictions are. That's what's kept me away from doing that. Um, Anything to add on that? When's the last time you tried something new?
You know what? I do try and do new things. Um, Not as much as I guess as I get older, not as much as I used to, right? But no, I try and do new things too, and try new things, and that's a really good positive way to, like you say, change your thinking on things, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, no, that's some good conversation there.
Just gives you something fresh to think on, right? If we're constantly thinking about all these other old things, it's like, oh, well, this happened, and I've been doing this, and like, oh, now I get to research it. But there's just so much possibility.
Yeah.
Last one here. I've gone through a couple, but this one I believe to be particularly important. Uh, says, how would you suggest getting help to someone who sees getting help as failure? Um,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
it's a tough one. I'm gonna say that, well, first and foremost, it's not. But to tell somebody that feels like that it's not, they're I know that when I'm feeling a certain way and I express my feeling and somebody tells you, well, no, you're wrong, like, well,
Yeah.
you should have waited until I cooled off before you told me I was wrong, maybe. Not ready to hear that. But I mean, to anybody who's listening, or anybody struggling, or anybody, maybe with that particular question, how would you suggest getting help to somebody who sees getting help as failure? It's truly not. I think it's not making you weak seeking help. It's actually proving how strong you are. And I think that, we, especially in this day and age, we measure people by what we see ahead of them and what we see, what they present and what is right here in front of us, Instagram, all this stuff. We
Mm.
measure people that based on that. But you know to see what that person might be doing while understanding what they're pulling behind them, I think is the true measure of a person. Like, this person is persevering, and we all are, but some of us don't like to
Mm.
share that we're struggling, or that we have these struggles. But getting help is not failure at all. We ask for help for literally everything, right? And how easy is it to do things in teams? Everything from cleaning the house to simple tasks to, oh, hey, I got to work today, but I was also meant to bring my car in. Example, me and my dad or my mom, or, yeah, my car's
Yeah.
got to go in. I'm at work. Can you take my car? Well, that's
Yeah.
not failure. I needed help, and thankfully my parents are there to support me in that moment, and they help,
Mhm.
right? And so why is it that and again, I guess we're going back to stigma. But how would you suggest? What do you think? What's your opinion on this question?
I see it all the time, Kevin. I see people, people have a whatever police officer or that's struggling with alcoholism, or uh, somebody in a high profile position in society,
Hmm.
where they're like, I don't have time. I'm here. I need to show up, and they're struggling, and they think it's a sign of weakness, but it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. You're right.
Hmm.
Just say, hey, um, you know, from the time you learn to tie your sneakers to the time you learn to skate, or you learned what hockey was, everything in your life is about learning.
Hmm.
Um, and everything, nobody learns a lot on your own. You're usually taught something or shown something, or you watch somebody else do it. We all learn in different ways, but you know the only way to get help is to ask for
Right.
it.
Right.
And like you say, the only way to get through it is with people around you supporting you in that and helping you with that. And I mean, it's a like I say, it was the hardest thing I ever did was ask for help, and
Hmm.
I didn't even realize how much help is out there. It's a really tough thing to do because of the stigma, and because you think you're a failure, and
Hmm.
you have a lot of fear, and so it's tough. But I can't say it enough. It's actually a sign of strength, and I see it as a sign of strength now that somebody can go, "Hey, you know what? I'm not okay, and I'm gonna find out why and where I'm at and what help I need." And um, you know, uh, with alcoholism and addiction, quitting the drug and the drink was the easy part.
Hmm.
Now I had to figure out who the hell I was,
Right. Right.
right? And that's scary to some people, and it was
Hmm.
scary to me too.
Hmm.
Um, when I first got sober, I could tell you what happy was, but I didn't know how to feel it,
Hmm.
because I was happy. I got stoned. I did drugs. I drank. I was upset, I did drugs or I drank.
Hmm.
I was mad, I did drug. I drank and drugged about everything. So I
Right.
didn't know
Right.
what any of the feelings were. I'm
Right.
asking my sponsor, man, I got these like something's in my stomach and it's really, hey, it's okay. You've got a little bit of anxiety, you got this, you're going to have an interview here and you
Hmm.
haven't had a job in a while. I'm like, oh, that's what that is. Yeah, that's what that is. So, I mean, those are little things that you have to learn again. So there's a lot of fear attached to, you know, reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, I need help. But once you do it, the uncomfortableness goes away.
Right.
Now it's easy for me to call my sponsor, say, hey, I got a problem.
Hmm.
This is what's going on in my life. I would never pick up the phone before and ask anybody for help, but it's pretty easy stuff now once
Right.
you start to do it.
Right.
It's like talking about your feelings with your spouse.
Hmm.
I never would do that before. I would never tell anybody how I felt, or I
Right.
would never admit to being wrong, or those are some pretty easy things in my life
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
They weren't before. So it's a sign of strength. It's people that are reaching out for help are probably in a smaller percentile than the people that are not reaching out.
Hmm.
I don't know how to tell you besides just if you want help, there's so much help out there in the world today. It might take a little time to get to it, but if you're open to it, um, and that's the big thing, being open to it, it'll
Right.
work, right?
Hmm.
Yes.
Well, Jamie, I mean, of course, we didn't get into talking much about these resources that are available. I have, a bit of a slideshow of those resources to be played at we'll call it credits of this video. But in saying that, there is help out there, and there are people that are cheering you on and want to see the best for you. And uh, Jamie, I appreciate you getting on here, and I appreciate everything you've helped me with along the way, and especially this, right? I asked you for help to do this, right? Like we're asked for help all over the place.
That's right.
But so ask for help in a time of need. Don't be ashamed of leaning on those around you, and if you feel you can't lean on them, then there's resources available. And again, Jamie, thank you so much. So happy to have you on here, and so proud of you for being able to come on here and share your story and your journey for the benefit of others. And really excited about this. I can't wait to show it off.
Right on. Hey, thanks for having me, and you're doing good things, and keep up the great work. And any way I can assist in the future, you let me know. I'd be there. So, thank you so
Awesome.
much, Kevin, and I've enjoyed it and enjoyed chatting with you as always. And I'll be talking to you soon.
Awesome. Right on.
Take care, buddy.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate the support. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. See here a link to anything that's happened thus far with the campaign and where you'll find anything else that'll continue to happen with it. Hope you guys enjoyed this interview. Don't be shy to like, share, comment, all that good stuff to ensure that we can continue having these conversations within our communities, our homes, and amongst each other. Understand that you're not alone and reach out in a time of need. Also, see here a link to my Just Giving page in support of Action Mental Health Northern Ireland, as well as stay tuned for the following credits showing a list of resources here in Dryden and surrounding area.